All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. For those of you that are here live, and for those of you that may see this replay at any time of day, 24/7, right there on YouTube, we invite you to join the YouTube channel. Definitely hit subscribe, and because you want to share whatever we share, we want you to share it with somebody else. This has been a series that the Lord spoke to me to do, and He told me to do 52 series, 52 of them in this Time to Tell the Truth series. And Time to Tell the Truth is based off of an old TV show. It came to me, To Tell the Truth. You know, that always tells your age if you know anything about that series. If you've never heard about it, it's because you're a youngster, right? But for those of you that don't know who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Rosalind Shaw Belt. Everybody calls me Dr. Roz. I am the CEO of Dream to Life Productions and Ministry, nonprofit, and an LLC. I am a wife, so proud to be the wife of Dr. Adrian Belt, and a bunch of other stuff that the Lord has blessed me to be able to do. I have two doctors now. Understand that I'm not a medical doctor, but my doctorates are in theology and divinity. But today, I'm operating as a certified wellness coach. And yes, the word certified is absolutely true. I've got a certificate of completion with a entrepreneur and lifestyle consultant, as well as with a Flat Belly Lifestyle 2.0, where I learned how to be a certified wellness coach and under the training of naturopathic Dr. Eric Prince. So today's topic is very special because it's running rampant in our society. So let's get started. Our topic today is that you don't have to be a diabetic. Listen, if you know anybody that is suffering with, dealing with diabetes, pre-diabetes, or insulin dependent, whatever the case may be, you need to get this information to them. Because you may know that your chances of having diabetes go up if you're overweight, if you don't exercise, and if you have high blood pressure. Now, I believe everybody has somebody in their life that is either already diagnosed with diabetes, they're overweight, they may be in denial, and they don't exercise, or they have high blood pressure. But here's the thing. Did you know that your odds can also be tied to your race and your ethnicity, even your family's country of origin? But everybody's different. And there are many things that can affect your health and whether you get diabetes, your weight and your age, how active you are, other conditions you have. But research does show that it's more common in certain groups than others.
You and I know that the Black community carries a high burden from type 2 diabetes, and that diabetes brings with it a higher risk for heart disease and stroke. We also know that it will take each one of us to change that. All of us working together with our families, communities, and our allies. Right now, let's all commit to one action to give type 2 a take two, either for ourselves or for the ones we love.
So we want to make sure that we really take hold of this, because this information is very, very powerful. And we definitely can change the condition. We can reverse the situations that we find ourselves in.
Recording in progress.
And we don't have to continue moving in this same direction. So let's keep it moving. So in 2024, the prevalence of diagnosed diabetes varies by race and ethnicity, with the highest rates among, believe it or not, American Indian, Alaska Native, followed by non-Hispanic Black adults, followed by Hispanic adults, followed by non-Hispanic Asian adults, and then non-Hispanic white adults. Now here's a breakdown. American Indian and Alaska Natives, 13.6% of the population. Non-Hispanic Black adults, 12.1% of the population. Hispanic adults, 11.7%. Non-Hispanic adults, Asian adults, 9.1%. And non-Hispanic white adults. Those are the statistics that you can actually do research and find out what's going on in our country. When we look at this map, I get disturbed. When I look at this map, and if you see the legend over on the right-hand side talking about cases per 100,000 adults, what states are in the darkest green? Well, unfortunately, I live in the South. And I say unfortunately when it comes to this map. I live in Texas. And Texas is one of those states, as well as other southern states, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee. I mean, just look at that. And then just above those is a little another shade of green, a little bit higher, and it's still covering states in the South, in the East Coast. And the ones that are the lowest are up north in the Midwest. So we really have a problem going on. We have a concern that we ought to really be concerned about because we see it in our families. We see it in our everyday lifestyle. And so when we look at this particular chart, again, 100,000 adults, the cases of diabetes, who has the greatest? The indigenous. Who has the second greatest number? Black or African American. And then third comes the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders. So when I saw that, I had no clue that the indigenous would be even higher than African Americans, because I figured, no, surely we must be the largest amount of people that are having diabetes. So it made me want to find out why. Why are the indigenous people so highly ranked when it comes to being diabetics? And some of the reasons are because they were forced to change to traditional diets. See, there was a time that they had fruits and vegetables, but now, just like us, have moved to processed foods and refined sugar, replace those natural, nutrient-dense foods, as well as the trauma and the stress that often they go through because of colonization and violence and displacement. And then the lack of access to healthcare and prevention because of where they live. So there's limited availability of quality care and diabetes screening. And then so many of them live in food deserts. Economic inequality. So healthy food is not often hard. Healthy food is often hard to find or too expensive, which means let's look at ourselves. I'm an African American. You may be watching this and you may be African American or know someone that is, and they're diabetic. Why? Because of obesity and unhealthy diets. Higher rates of obesity are in our culture. Physical inactivity, especially in the season that we're living in now, where everybody's a couch potato. They're sitting in front of a television. They're sitting in front of virtual everything. You know, especially since COVID, you know, after COVID, how much weight did we gain during COVID? Because we were just sitting in front of the computer. All of the electronics that are supposed to make our life easier are causing our health to decline. Chronic stress because of discrimination, financial instability. All of that contributes to the stress. And then to top it all off, limited healthcare access. Fewer resources available to manage the condition.
Insulin is produced by the pancreas, okay? It's a hormone produced by the pancreas. And what happens is, okay, so this is what I need you to know. Like everything that you eat breaks down to glucose, to sugar, okay? In the body, everything you eat breaks down to glucose, right? And so as soon as you start eating food, digestion begins, okay? Digestion begins, metabolism begins, digestion begins breaking down the foods, whether it's protein, whether it's fats, carbs, like everything is being broken down into glucose, right? So what happens is the pancreas releases insulin into the bloodstream, okay? And then it takes the glucose that's now in your bloodstream that came from being broken down by the food, okay? And it shoots into the cells to be metabolized for energy. right? You understand? That's the purpose of insulin, okay? So I want to read this definition. It says insulin is a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels and is often a key part of diabetes management, okay? Is the key part of life, okay? It says the pancreas produces insulin, which moves glucose from the bloodstream into the cells to be used for energy, okay? That's exactly what I said. When someone has diabetes, their body either doesn't produce enough insulin, can't use insulin properly, or both. This causes blood sugar levels to rise above normal, a condition called hyperglycemia, okay? Without enough insulin, glucose builds up in the bloodstream instead of entering the cells, which can lead to serious health issues called diabetes complications, right? So that's the sole purpose of the insulin. So you eat food, the body breaks it down. Now, that food's now been broken down into glucose. It's in your bloodstream. You say, okay, I need to get this glucose out of the bloodstream. The pancreas releases the insulin. The insulin goes, grabs the glucose, deposits it into the cells to be used as energy. So what happens is, okay, because the insulin can only do but so much. The pancreas can only move but so fast. So when you're constantly eating sugar, or eating things that break down the sugar, okay? So I'm not talking about when you're constantly eating vegetables. I'm not talking about when you're constantly eating protein. I'm talking about when you're constantly eating, simple carbs, desserts, processed foods. You understand? Like, yeah, sugar, right? Candy, cakes, pies, and it's just, you're drinking juice all the time. Like, you understand that these are things, it's just sugar. It's like the pancreas can't keep up. You see, the pancreas cannot keep up with the distributing the insulin. It can't keep up, right? And so the insulin can't get the glucose out of the bloodstream quick enough, right? They put it into the cells to be metabolized as energy. And so what happens? Then the glucose level in your bloodstream rises. So then when you test your glucose, okay, you see I got this continuous glucose meter. So when you test your glucose, or you prick your finger with the manual glucose, when you check your glucose, it's elevated. Right? For the person that's diabetic, right? Because they're taking in too much sugar, the pancreas can't keep up, the insulin is not moving fast enough, and so the blood sugar in their bloodstream is elevated, and they're diabetic.
So we just finished a series on sugar, where are you? 5 parts that we did in 5 different weeks, because sugar is some things that we don't even recognize. We all know it's sugar in chocolate cake. We all know there's sugar in German chocolate and candies and all that kind of stuff. But so many other areas. And I wanted her to tell us this, because sometimes we are diagnosed with things, or we're dealing with things, and we don't even know what it really is. So that's why I wanted to break this down. Insulin, okay? Insulin, with ChatGPT, give me an acronym for insulin. Influences nutrient storage, used, lowers blood sugar. Now, that's what it's supposed to do in our lives. It has a very positive purpose. But sometimes we're insulin resistant. So if we're insulin resistant, then it's not doing what it should do. And that's really the first stage. Now, a lot of times people are never even diagnosed with being insulin resistant. Do you know if you are diagnosed with insulin resistance, you ought to give God praise, because you're getting a chance to find out what I can do to change that before I get to type 2 diabetes. Because by the time you reach type 2 diabetes, you have progressed from insulin resistant to type 2 diabetes. And then if you still don't make any changes in your lifestyle, you're moving straight ahead to type 1. Nobody has type 1 just overnight, okay? You understand? I mean, I know there's some things that we have, and we blame our mama and our grandmama and our great-grandmama because they had it. But I'm gonna tell you, what the genetics really is that we do the same things they did. We eat the same foods they ate. So when you're insulin resistant, it means your cells are ignoring the insulin. So you have a high level of insulin in your body. And it's often lifestyle related. You can treat it. Yes, you can treat it. You can reverse it. And I don't ever use the word cure, because we don't want to use the word cure when you have these things, but you can reverse them. through diet, exercise, and lifestyle. Lifestyle meaning changing diet, finding out, becoming knowledgeable of what you're intaking, knowing that you got to read those labels. We talked about that through 5 series over and over again. Rochelle Parks helped us a lot, and other wellness experts. And then that type 2, not enough insulin or poor response. And it's high or low insulin level depending on what stage you're in. And it often follows insulin resistance. Again, reverse it. I'm going to say reverse it rather than say treat it with diet, meds, sometimes. And sometimes people have to, of course, take insulin. And then type 1, mostly insulin only. That person is usually on insulin and has been on insulin for some time now. But understand this thing called insulin resistance. Your body uses a hormone called insulin that she just talked about to help move sugar from your blood into your cells where it's used for energy. That's the purpose of it. Yes, it's a God-given thing that's in our bodies for the purpose of giving us energy. But when you're insulin resistant, your cells stop listening. It's like hearing the doorbell ring and you ignore the doorbell. So what does the sugar do? It stays in your blood longer and your body starts making more insulin to try to force the sugar in.
There is no growth without insulin. If you're consuming excess, or if you're consuming things that drive insulin, and the higher your insulin goes, the more fat you're going to lay down. Worse yet, that fat then releases proteins that feed back on the liver and make your insulin work even less well. And now you've got insulin resistance, and you're going to drive even more insulin up and more fat gain. And you can't get the fat down until you get the insulin down.
So we've got to get the insulin down. We're going to be talking about all of that. What is the solution for that? We're not just talking about a problem. Because one of the videos I think we played last week said you can be a person who's insulin resistant and you're working out all the time and it's not helping. You're on a certain kind of diet. You're following the keto. You're following this and it's not even helping.
And in some rare cases, I have seen people reverse type 1 as well too. So really, really important, because even type 1, for a lot of type 1 diabetics, they went from type 2 to type 1. That just means the condition worsened. You may still have some function of the pancreas. If you still have some of those beta cells in that pancreas still functioning, it's important to understand that it's possible to regain function. But you cannot do that without making a lifestyle change. And I want to really emphasize this to people. Speak with your doctor before making any type of shifts in your medications, because I do not recommend that. I tell people all the time, I come from both sides of the fence. I've been on the side of the fence, working in the hospital, working with patients, filling their prescriptions, etc.
So we want to make sure that we find out what's going on. It's better to know than to not know. People tell me all the time, well, I just don't want to know when I'm ready to do a bioscan to show them where they are from the cells of their body. But you want to know. Because as he said, if there's still some cells there that is capable of reversing it, all it needs is just something to work with.
What are your thoughts on type 1 diabetes and its potential reversibility?
That is an interesting thought. There are people who have type 1 diabetes. Cyrus, if you know Cyrus, he is a type 1 diabetic and he is whole food plant-based. And he has noticed that his requirement of insulin has gone down significantly from when he was eating the standard American diet. Why I think that is very interesting is that there was probably something that actually continues to damage the cells that doesn't allow it to completely reverse the need. But there are studies that have actually shown that a whole food plant-based diet will actually help with beta cell recovery. I think that some more research needs to be done in this area, but that's a really clear, or at least an interesting thought.
So that's why I tell people all the time, one, I tell people don't even call yourself a diabetic because you're labeling yourself. You may be dealing with diabetes, but there's life and death in the power of the tongue. So reverse even what you're saying, because just as she said, they're waiting on research, but we've got to take control of our own lives. So I wanted to break that down. Diabetes. Don't ignore A1C because every thoughtful effort strengthens. Every thoughtful effort strengthens. If you're a diabetic, it means daily intention and balance elevates energy through control. We're taking control because you don't have to be a diabetic.
My diagnosis of pre-diabetes is not everyone's narrative. And I just happened to take a hormone test and the blood test came back. My doctor took an A1C test. I had never heard of A1C before, which is a comprehensive test that it tests your average glucose rates over the past 2-3 months. So you basically take 4 A1C tests a year. I didn't know any of that stuff. And she said, you're pre-diabetic range. I said, that's gotta be a mistake. My glucose levels are always great. I eat right, I exercise. She said, well, and she sent the numbers and it was elevated. Not super high, but it was right there. And so one of the things, I just armed myself with information about foods, even some of the healthy foods that I ate that I thought was okay. Even certain vitamins that I could take, berberine, all kinds of things that I took. And then changing even my workout schedule, my sleep schedule, everything. And then really talking to my doctor more and talking to my sisters more who have type 2 diabetes, just going out there and being a warrior about my health.
How important is it for communities of color specifically to really do their due diligence on the sugar, as we often call it,
Well, that's one of the things that we can do. I mean, when we were growing up, we always called, yes, Aunt so-and-so got the sugar. She got the sugar, and then nobody did anything. We continued to eat our cornbread and the dumplings, which, we know, rice and all of that, that we have to change our relationship with food. We have to change our relationship, how we see our health and going to the doctor on a regular basis. And we need to create a support group within our community to help each other and not just sort of feel like, once we get the diagnosis of the disease, that we just sort of have to wait to see that our fate is going to be just like Auntie so-and-so who went in the back room and got her leg amputated. You can manage the disease.
So several individuals in the film talk about their personal journeys with type 2 diabetes. Did any of them in particular stand out to you or connect with you?
Oh my goodness, so many of them. So many of them stood out to me. But the one story that really was beautiful to me was Shaniqua, I think that's her name, who said that she only was really proactive about her diabetes once her child was diagnosed. And I think that's a narrative for a lot of women, that we sort of negate ourselves. And, especially once we have a child, that everything gets poured into the child and we forget about self-care. We see it as selfish to care for self. And you saw how not only did she want her child to live and have a good life, but she wanted to be there for her child. That hit home for me because I have an 8.5-year-old, and that's one thing that's going through my head all the time. I want to be there for her because every time I look at her, I say, Genesis, when you get to be, 18, and the next thought I have is, oh, I want to be there. See.
Powerful, powerful. Self-care is not selfish. So let's look at a few examples before we really get into this, because this is going to be part one of this. And then next week, we're going to deal with a lot of the foods that we need to cut out or at least need to minimize. Black Americans have a higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes compared to white Americans. And this is linked to factors like higher rates of obesity, insulin resistance, and socioeconomic disparities. I need you to understand this because we got to take control of this. We don't have to settle for being a diabetic or being a I hate that word, no, just get rid of it, just reverse the direction. Hispanic Latino Americans also have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes with factors like cultural diets, lower socioeconomic status, and limited access to healthcare playing a role. See, I covered type 1 first because it's more rare and it's part of the progression. And so many people, when they get type 1, they're done, it's over, nothing I can do. But the majority of people that we know that are labeled as diabetic have type 2. Native Americans have one of the highest rates, we've already talked about that, of type 2 diabetes in the United States, and this is linked to factors like genetic predisposition, high rates of obesity, and limited access to healthy foods.
So first, let's talk about this weight loss. And so I hear people say all the time, plus my doctor say, if I just lose some weight, that's gonna help with my numbers. I'm like, well, to me, we're focusing on the wrong thing. So it's not like, how did you lose the weight? Okay, you lose the weight by changing what you eat. So to me, the focus should be if you change what you eat, right? If you change what you eat, you're going to help to lower your numbers. Okay, you're gonna fare better. Your body is gonna perform better. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna be able to move more. You're gonna be able to exercise because you're lighter, right? You're gonna have more energy. Your body is gonna metabolize this glucose better, right? You're just gonna work. Your body's gonna work better. Okay, when you start to change what you put in it, it's like putting, the proper fuel in the car. It's gonna perform better. The same thing. You put the proper fuel in your body. You are the car. It's going to perform better. So when they say weight loss, when they say the doctor said if I lose weight, that'll help improve my numbers. I'm like, what? I think that's a byproduct. That's a byproduct. The weight loss is a byproduct, okay, of eating healthier, right? When you start to eat more of God's food, your body just automatically releases the weight. But let me tell you what it says. It says losing weight can reduce the risk of complications for people with diabetes, okay? It says it can also improve your cardiovascular risk factors like, stroke and heart attack, like losing weight can improve your cardiovascular risk factors. And so like weight loss is very important. It also says, I'm going to tell you this, what it says for those that choose to, lose weight. Here's some other benefits. It says preventing future diabetes in people with pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome. So if you are pre-diabetic, meaning, if you're diabetic, your A1C, it's it's greater than 5.7. Okay. If no, Rochelle, get it right. You're pre-diabetic if your numbers are 5.7 to 6.4. That's pre-diabetic. You're diabetic if your numbers are 6.5 or greater. Okay, so greater than 6.4, 6.5 or greater. That's your A1C. You are considered diabetic. Okay, so it says some benefits of losing weight is preventing future diabetes in people with pre-diabetes. Okay, that means your A1C is between that 5.7 and 6.4 range, meaning we start to lose some weight, we can reverse that. Okay, we start to lose some weight, we can reverse that because we're losing weight because we're eating better, right? So you start to, remember we talked about, you start to give your body more of these leafy greens, more of the protein, less of the simple carbs, less of the sugar and the processed foods, right? Your body starts to, the pancreas can keep up with the sugar that's being deposited into the bloodstream. That's the food that's being broken down. Now it's healthier food, which means it's less sugar, which means the pancreas can release the insulin. The insulin can grab the glucose, which is the sugar, and sends it into the cells and be metabolized as energy, right? So as we're doing that, we're decreasing the blood sugar levels in the bloodstream. As we're doing that over time, we're decreasing our A1C levels so that pre-diabetic condition can now be reversed to normal. You see how that works?
So last week we talked about, even as it relates to insulin resistance, we talked about one of the solutions that was suggested is to begin to do intermittent fasting. Because when we come to insulin resistance, we understood that it's just not receiving the insulin, right? And then it's causing more insulin because it's trying to force it through. So if we intermittent fasting and the body is saying, oh, I thought you were getting ready to eat right now, and then you don't eat right now, now insulin is not coming to the body. So when it comes to the weight loss, everybody says, if you feel like you're overweight, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you're not satisfied with what you see, not based on what others say about you, but what you say about yourself, yeah, weight loss can have a powerful impact. But I love what Rochelle said. How do you lose the weight? See, we live in this fast-paced society. We want to do everything microwave, slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. And like my husband tells me, you didn't get it overnight, so it's not going to leave overnight. It's going to leave over time when we make up our minds to do the right things. But here's why weight loss has a powerful impact. Because now you're intaking less fat, which is better insulin use. So when you lose excess weight, especially around your belly, and I get it, it's the hardest to get rid of. Your body becomes more sensitive to insulin. That means your cells respond better. Your body doesn't need to produce as much insulin. Your blood sugar is more easily controlled. And think of it like this: fat can clog the communication between insulin and your cells. Losing weight helps clear that line of communication. Number two, less pressure on the pancreas. If you're insulin resistant, your pancreas is working overtime to pump out more insulin. So weight loss gives your pancreas a break, which can help it work better and longer. Number three, it lowers the blood sugar levels because now we're eating a certain kind of food. We've talked about the glycemic index in past sessions. Even a small amount of weight loss. Listen, don't beat yourself up thinking you got to lose 50 pounds. I'm saying you start somewhere. 5 to 10% of your body weight can lower your A1C, can reduce fasting blood sugar. Number four, it provides you with less inflammation. Excess body fat, especially visceral fat, that's again around the stomach area, it's the gut. That's what causes inflammation. And that inflammation, it worsens insulin resistance and raises the blood sugar. Losing fat reduces inflammation and helps your body work better. And it's all in our diet. It's all in us eating those kinds of food. We did another session some months ago about the foods that cause inflammation. Go back there on our YouTube page and find that. And there are certain foods that we eat religiously. It's not what you do some of the time, is what you do most of the time. There are a lot of foods that we're eating on a regular basis. Some of them we're eating every day that literally cause inflammation. And number five, boosts energy and motivation. Because as you lose weight, you often sleep better. You feel more energized. And it becomes easier to move more and keep the momentum going. So real talk. You don't have to get super skinny to see the benefits. That's not what we're saying. I'm gonna say it again, even dropping 10 to 15 pounds can dramatically improve your blood sugar control. So they asked if I want a simple weight loss checklist or tracker focused on improving insulin sensitivity and diabetes. And you can put something together that you can actually track what you're doing.
And so that's what it says. So those are some of the other benefits that losing weight can do. It also says improving other metabolic conditions such as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and sleep apnea. So here's something. Most of the times when we think of cirrhosis of the liver, okay, people think of alcohol. Oh, they must drink a lot. No. There is a such thing as non-alcoholic induced cirrhosis of the liver, right? Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's non-alcoholic induced cirrhosis of the liver. That's if you're just taking in too much sugar. You see? I never forget my cousin, this was many years ago. He was an amputee. He had already gotten one leg amputated, right? He was type 2 diabetic and he was on all this medication. I attempted to help him, but you gotta want to be helped. And I remember he was telling me about his medication. He said, Coach Rowe, no, I'm sorry. He didn't call me Coach Rowe. He was like, Rochelle, they got me taking this liver medication. There's nothing wrong with my liver. He was not even aware that he was dealing with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right? See all this sugar that affects your liver. People don't realize that. They don't realize it affects their liver. They don't realize it affects their central nervous system. Like there's no place in the body that sugar doesn't affect. Why? Because blood goes in every part of your body, right? And where's the sugar located? In your blood. So if the blood goes to every part of your body, the sugar in your blood goes to every part of the body. So there's no place in the body that sugar doesn't affect, right? So he was dealing with non-alcoholic induced cirrhosis of the liver unknowingly. So he was taking liver medication. So these are things, you lose the weight, you can improve these metabolic conditions such as non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver, non-alcoholic induced cirrhosis of the liver, and sleep apnea. Isn't that something? You mean to tell me I can lose weight and I can get off the CPAP machine? You mean to tell me I can lose weight, I can start changing what I put in my body, and as a byproduct, start to lose weight, and then as a byproduct of that, get off the CPAP machine? Yes. You see how one thing just, it's a domino effect. So I've always told my people, I said, when you control your blood sugar, you control your whole life. When you control, there are people that have gotten in my program, diabetes, had no idea they were about to normalize their blood pressure, had no idea they were about to get off the CPAP machine, had no idea they were about to get rid of their hot flashes, their menstrual cramps, okay, their migraine headaches, had no idea. You understand? When you control your blood sugar, you control your whole life, right? And so these are some benefits, okay? When you start to lose the weight, that's because you change what you put in your body, all these things change. And it also just says improving quality of life. Yeah, because you're gonna feel better. You're gonna feel better, you're gonna feel lighter, you're gonna have a better outlook on life, like all these things just from losing weight, right? Your numbers are gonna be better, right? Which in turn will significantly reduce, right, your A1C, maybe go from diabetic to pre-diabetic to normal, or go from pre-diabetic to normal, okay? I'll go from normal to a better normal, okay? I just know when you give your body what it needs to thrive, it will.
Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. If you're watching this and you want to know where you are before the doctor even diagnosed it from the cells, then get back with the person that invited you. They may be a certified wellness coach that can give you a bioscan to show you where you are as it relates to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You want to know that because sugar has such a huge impact on your liver, especially when it's eaten in excess or in the form of added sugar. We talked about that on the other session. Added sugar. We're not talking about just the white sugar that you put in your tea only. It's everywhere. Fructose overload. Most of those added sugars like high fructose. Remember that what we talked about? Everything that has an OSE. Look at the label. Fructose, glucose, unlike glucose, fructose can only be processed by the liver. And if you eat too much fructose, which is what we're doing when we go in the grocery store and we're walking down the center aisles. We're doing it. We're getting the boxes and the bags and the cans and the jars, and they've all got OSIS in that list of ingredients. Your liver turns that extra into fat. Here you are wanting to lose weight, wanting to get off some of the fat off from wherever it is. Think of it like this: the liver is a storage unit. And when it's overwhelmed, it starts packing away sugar as fat. Number 2, the fatty liver disease. Excess sugar, especially from sugary drinks, leads to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That means your liver starts filling up with the fat, even if you don't drink alcohol. Stop saying the only people that have liver disease are alcoholics. Many people with type 2 diabetes or insulin resistant also have fatty liver, often without even knowing it. Number 3, insulin resistance in the liver. The liver plays a big role. When I'm doing a bioscan with people, after I've gone through the heart and I've gone through the gastrointestinal area to show them where they are, when I see that liver, all of a sudden I almost ignore everything else because that liver plays such a huge role in even people having a heart attack, having high blood pressure. It plays a big role in that blood sugar control. It dumps sugar into the bloodstream even when you don't need it. And then guess what? If it's in the bloodstream, where does it travel? All over the body. It travels all over the body. It travels, and we showed you how if it clumps up, now it becomes a what? Blood clot. And that leads to a heart attack. That leads to a stroke. That leads to an aneurysm. Number 4, inflammation and damage. Over time, a sugar-loaded liver becomes inflamed. That inflammation can lead to liver damage, scarring, fibrosis, and in severe cases, cirrhosis of the liver. So in summary, too much sugar, especially fructose. Oh, guys, it's everywhere. Can turn the liver from a helper into a hoarder of fat and sugar. Please understand, they're not trying to help us to be healthy. They're making money off of our pain. And then this messes up your whole metabolic system. So how does this work? Sugar affects the liver. It starts with sugar, goes to the liver, and then too much of it, fat production. From sweetened foods and drinks, enters the body, the liver processes it, and when you eat too much, the liver can't use it all. Now you may eat a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there, and all of a sudden that's too much. And that fat builds up inside the liver, leading to fatty liver disease and insulin resistance. Too much sugar equals liver overload, equals fat buildup, equals health problems.
Okay, and so we talked about weight loss effect. Let's talk about alcohol and cigarettes. We doing that no way, not a whole lot of it, okay? But I'm gonna tell you what it says. It says heavy alcohol, watch this, can cause pancreatitis. Okay, pancreatitis, y'all. Where does the insulin come from? The pancreas, right? So heavy alcohol, excuse me, heavy alcohol use, hold on. Heavy alcohol use can cause pancreatitis, which can damage the pancreas's ability to produce insulin and potentially lead to diabetes. So if the pancreas is damaged from all the alcohol, because now you got pancreatitis, then it can't do its job, okay? The pancreas produces the insulin. We need the insulin to grab the glucose out of the bloodstream and send it into the cells to be used up as energy. But if it can't produce it, that means it can't remove it from the bloodstream. And so now you have elevated blood sugars, right? Now you're diabetic. Now maybe you have to take insulin, okay? Because your pancreas can't do its job, right? It says alcohol can also make it harder for the liver to release glucose, which can increase the risk of hypoglycemia for people who use insulin or certain diabetes medications. Okay, so what they're saying is what happens is your liver stores glucose as well. Okay, and so what happens is when you're taking the diabetes medication, right, and it lowers your blood glucose. Okay, the liver will dump some glucose in the bloodstream to bring it back up to normal. Okay, or like maybe early in the morning, you know, your glucose drops early in the morning, like maybe before you wake up. The liver dumps, you know, glucose in the system, bring it back up so it can just reach a normal level, right? But what happens is alcohol can make it harder for the liver to release the glucose, right? Which will send you into a hypoglycemic state, meaning when the medication drops it so low, right? The liver can't produce secrete the release glucose to bring it back up. Now you're hypoglycemic. That can be dangerous too. Okay, hyperglycemia is bad, but hypoglycemia is also bad. Okay, that's also bad, guys. So we don't want that. So yeah, that's what alcohol does. And so yeah, no alcohol. Like we don't need alcohol. You're diabetic.
So I wanted to break this down because sometimes we don't get a full understanding how alcohol affects the liver and ties into sugar and diabetes, especially if you are already diagnosed as a diabetic. Because alcohol is, she just said it, processed by the liver, just like fructose. And so the liver treats alcohol like a toxin and then works hard to break it down. But when there's too much alcohol, just like too much sugar, the liver stores the extra as fat. And it can cause fatty liver disease. Okay, we talked about non-alcoholic, but there's, of course, we know alcoholic fatty liver disease. We've seen so many movie stars and you see them with a drink in their hand all of the time. We're going to talk about that. And then they die of these different forms of cancer or different things that they're dying from. Too much. Both types overload the liver with fat, inflame it, lead to liver scarring, then it's cirrhosis of the liver. Number 3, it messes with the blood sugar. It can cause blood sugar to spike. And if you're a diabetic, that's the one thing you don't need, right? Or it can cause a sudden drop because the liver is too busy trying to process the alcohol to regulate your sugar. So this makes it tricky and risky, especially for people with diabetes or insulin resistant. And then number 4, it increases insulin resistance. Regular alcohol use can make your body less sensitive to insulin, just like sugar does. And over time, this raises your risk for type 2 diabetes. And then number 5, alcohol and sugar together, that's double trouble. Alcohol and you got sugar in your diet, sugary cocktails, desserts with alcohol, binge drinking with sugary diet. It's a major hit. You know, we love, I personally love a margarita. No, not just a margarita, a strawberry margarita. Now we've added sugar to the alcohol, right? So in summary, both sugar and alcohol are liver loaders, and they come up with these fancy drinks. When you go on a cruise, they got all these different kinds of sugary drinks with fancy names. And during the holidays, special names. They create fat, raise inflammation, weaken insulin sensitivity, and too much of either or both leads to fatty liver, insulin resistance, and increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. So when I began to do and research this, I began to think, okay, are there some that are better than others? For those of you that may like to have libation every now and then, are there some that are better than worse? And yes, there are. Better because they're lower in sugar, lower in carbs. These have less impact. Now, there still should be some kind of limit, especially, I mean, if you're a diabetic, let's just, say no, absolutely not. But these have less impact on blood sugar and are easier on the liver if consumed. Do you see what that word says? Moderately. Dry wine, red or white, only contains approximately 3 to 4 grams of sugar per glass. Spirits, that's the vodka, the tequila, the gin, the whiskey, or the rum. 0 grams of sugar. But then when you add it to orange juice, or when you added, like I said, strawberries or mango to the tequila, okay, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Or Coke and rum. You've just screwed it up, right? Light beer, low carb, some under 5 grams. So stick to the dry, not sweet wines or the flavored liquors. What's worse? These are loaded with sugar and make the liver work extra hard. I've kind of already covered them. The sweet wines, the Moscato, the port, the dessert wines, the cocktails. I just said it, the margaritas. Oh, come on. I know anybody like the daiquiris, the pineapple, the pina coladas. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't shoot the messenger. Flavored spirits, the liqueurs, the Baileys, the Fireball, the flavored vodkas. And they come up with them all the time. You got the Crown Royal, then you got the Apple Crown, So regular beer and cider, especially sweet or craft kinds. Cocktails can have 20 to 50 grams of sugar in one drink. That's more than a can of soda. So how much alcohol is considered okay? Again, if you're insulin resistant, if you're pre-diabetic, or you're type 2, absolutely less is more or none at all. But women, up to 1 drink per day. Men, up to 2 drinks per day. Anybody remember, maybe you used to do this, or maybe you still, you take that time at the go by and happy hour? Did you just have 1 drink? See, that's the thing. We didn't have just 1 drink. We had a couple of drinks, a half an ounce of wine. No, they give you the big old goblet. 12 ounces of beer. What beer drinker drinks just 1 can? I showed you last week. They don't even buy it by 1 can. They buy it by the 6-pack or the 12-pack or the 24-pack. And that's not necessarily for other people to share. 1.5 ounces of liquor. So daily drinking, even in safe amounts, even if you drink in safe amounts, it still taxes the liver. See, it's better that we know this than to not know it.
Okay, let's talk about tobacco. I know this is firsthand experience with my mother. It says smoking can increase blood sugar levels and lead to insulin resistance. Who knew that? So my mother, who died of lung cancer in 2012, but before she died, she had developed type 2 diabetes. Yeah, she had developed type 2 diabetes. Heavy smokers more than 20 cigarettes per day, that was probably mama, that's a pack a day. Heavy smokers, more than 20 cigarettes per day, have almost double the risk of developing diabetes compared to non-smokers. Did y'all hear that? Heavy smokers, right? It says smoking can also damage blood vessels, which can increase the risk of heart attack, stroke, amputation, and blindness. Come on, y'all. You see, this is not good. This, like, we don't need to be smoking cigarettes. Like, if we're diabetic, high blood pressure, like, that's our focus. Our focus needs to be on getting healthy, not these terrible lifestyle habits that's harming us even more. Like, it's not helping your situation, it's making it worse. It's making it worse, and I've seen it firsthand. And so, yeah, smoking can increase blood sugar levels and lead to insulin resistance. You say, what is insulin resistance? It's when your body is like, you know what? We're not even fazed by this anymore. You know, it's like the insulin tries to take the glucose and send it to the cells, and the cells is like, we ain't taking it no more. No more. Like, we're not taking any more sugar, we're done. Boom. Nothing you can do. I'm done. I'm already filled. I can't even deal with what I got. You trying to give me more. Boom. Shops closed. No more. No more. I can't do it anymore. And so what does that lead to? Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Why? Because now the blood sugar, the blood sugar is elevated, right? The sugar, the glucose in the blood, it just gets higher and higher and higher. Can't deal with it. And so insulin resistance, so then you need insulin to do the trick, right? But when the body becomes insulin resistant on its own, it's like, no, we're not doing that. It's like you need medication to force the body to do it at this point, right? But it's supposed to do it on its own. When it's going at a moderate rate, okay, the normal rate, when you're eating well, when you're eating clean or normal and not having a diet that's just overly consumed with sugar and processed food and simple carbs and juice and soda and coffee and tea, and you say tea with sugar, of course. I'm saying all these are, sugar laden, of course, right? Yeah, the body's supposed to do this on its own. Okay, when it can handle the load. When you just give it too much, the body shuts down and it becomes insulin resistant. So that's what happens. It says smoking can increase blood sugar levels and lead to insulin resistance. So that's not what we need. Okay, we don't need that at all. So alcohol, smoking, bad juju, okay?
So smoking creates a triple threat to your health, especially your liver, your insulin sensitivity, and your blood vessels. How does it do that? It increases the insulin resistance, like she said. It raises the blood sugar levels. It hurts the liver again. It increases that oxidative stress and inflammation in the liver, and it damages the blood vessels, causing poor circulation, increased risk of heart disease. It's on the package. They finally put it on the package after years. And when you combine the sugar with the alcohol, smoking plus alcohol plus sugar, then that's a heavy load on the liver and the metabolism. More inflammation, more insulin resistance, more chance of developing chronic conditions. So in summary, smoking doesn't just hurt the lungs only, it messes with your liver, your blood sugar, your hormones, your heart, and your circulation. Even occasional smoking can undo progress in blood sugar control or weight loss.
Let's talk about some natural remedies or some supplements. Okay, natural remedies or supplements to help manage diabetes. Okay, to help manage diabetes. Natural remedies right off the break. Y'all know, Coach Rowe always says leafy greens are your friend. Leafy greens are your friend. You can't get more natural than God's food. Okay, leafy greens are your friend. I promise you. You start to, incorporate more salads in your life. You start to go raw more. Okay, these raw vegetables, leafy greens are your. Everybody type that in the chat. Leafy greens are my friend. You start to do that. You start to drink your water, right? At least half your body weight now. So you start to move your body every day, at least 30 minutes. Just move, just walk. Yeah, I didn't say you have to be FloJo. Okay, I didn't date myself. Okay, they got fast women out there now. You have to be FloJo. Okay, if you're a man, you have to be Carl Lewis. Okay, Just get out there and walk. Just get out there and walk, right? And so here's some other things, eating more fiber. Eating more fiber, absolutely. It says slows down digestion and sugar consumption. I mean, sugar absorption, not consumption, right? Slows down digestion and sugar absorption. That's what fiber does. Let's see, what does this say? Now here it is. Here's something you can do. No, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that because you don't need to be eating them anyway. Here's something else you can do. We talked about exercise, right? Moving your body, supplements. Here's a little trick that can like really lower your sugar instantly. Cinnamon. Ooh, I tried it out. Yeah, cinnamon. Like putting some cinnamon, you know, in your food, sprinkling some water, drinking it. Cinnamon. I'm not saying it tastes great, but cinnamon helps to like immediately lower your blood sugar. Chromium, vitamin B1, okay, alpha lipoic acid, bitter melon green tea, resveratrol. Okay, come on, Vivix, come on, Shaklee product, Vivix. Magnesium, right? These are things you can use to lower your blood sugar. Okay, lower your blood sugar. There's so many more things you can do. They say eating fresh garlic. Okay, we talked about drinking your water, getting quality sleep. Right? You understand? Like sleep affects your blood sugar as well. If you're not getting enough sleep, if it's not quality sleep, that's going to affect your blood sugar as well. So what else? Managing stress too. Okay. Yeah, it's so many things. Let me see. I want to see if I can give you just a few more healthy options, natural remedies for lowering your blood sugar. Apple cider vinegar, there's one. Apple cider vinegar, okay? Apple cider vinegar. Some people just take a little bit every morning, okay? It says taking 2 tablespoons before bedtime can reduce your morning fasting blood sugars. 2 tablespoons before bedtime. It says even better, take 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar taken with meals can decrease the glycemic load of the carbohydrate-rich meal. Okay, 1 to 2 tablespoons with your meal can decrease the glycemic load, which means it's going to reduce the amount that your blood sugar spikes, okay, and from a carbohydrate-rich meal. Yep. This person says you can consume the apple cider vinegar alone prior to a meal and mix it into salad dressings or teas. We talked about fiber. How about barley? Okay, these are things. The recommended amount of fiber is around 30 grams per day. Around 30 grams of fiber per day. Okay. But most Americans eat about 6 to 8 grams a day. Not nearly enough. Okay, so 30 grams a day. That's gonna help. We talked about chromium, zinc. That's another one. That's a supplement, Shaklee. Okay, zinc is another one. Has antioxidant effects, can reduce your blood sugar, your A1C. Aloe vera. I did a reel with that. That's on my Instagram. Aloe vera is another one, right? Cinnamon, we talked about that. Fenugreek, that's another one. Okay, that's another one. And I think that's it. So these are just some natural supplements and remedies that you can use right at home, you know, low cost, right? That can help to reduce your blood sugar, right? So again, I don't really want to talk management. I want to talk reversal. I want to talk about ridding your body of this stuff.
That's what we're talking about, ridding your body of this stuff. So we're finished for this session. What can we do? No matter who you are, you can take steps to prevent or lower your chance of diabetes. Let's exercise. What movement? At least 30 minutes of moderate workouts 5 days a week. Watch what you eat. You control that. Don't be moved by the commercials that you see on television, because even the commercials that you see, and we've talked about this in previous sessions, how our country is the only country that even is allowed to put medication as a commercial. The purpose of a commercial is for you to go and get that thing. So why would they create a commercial for medication when you can't go get it. It has to be prescribed. That's to entice us to ask the doctor about it. So watch what you eat, cut the sugar, saturated fats and salt, add leafy green veggies, whole grains, salmon, other foods high in omega-3 fatty acids. Work on keeping your weight in a healthy range. See your doctor for regular checkups. Check on, there's so much information on the internet, cooking classes, health education, different meals. We're gonna do a whole session on people that are cooking some wonderful, wonderful things. Eating healthy does not have to be boring. It does not have to be nasty. It can be really, 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 really good. And then work to get the sugar out of us. Some of us just need to do a cold turkey, quit sugar, okay? Because you'll drop pounds faster, score lasting energy, say bye-bye to the belly fat, stop worrying about diabetes and get ready for a younger looking skin. Yeah, put up a stop sign. And if you're needing to detox, we all need to detox. We challenge you, as she said, you know, you got to go raw at some point, but even if you got to get started with a 4-day detox, ask the person that invited you to take a look at this. They probably know about the 4-day detox, where to boost your digestion, pull that sugar out of you. It's called bitters. It's not, does not taste good, but it's good for you. And depending on your goals, you may want to go further to a 7 or a 21-day raw cleanse. But this 4-day is very, very easy to do. Just boil 40 ounces of water, put a tea bag in there, let it steep, and then 4 days, drink 8 ounces. And if you want to, you can drink 4 ounces twice in a day. Me, preferably, I'm ready to get the 8 ounces and get it down, chug-a-lug, right? You know, don't waste my time. Follow a meal plan, a bitters blood type meal plan, and then steer clear of the sugar and the refined carbs. And watch and see, once your taste buds awaken, and things that are sweet will be really sweet. Things that are salty will be really salty because now your taste buds have awakened. So it's not about suffering. It's not about being so strict. It's not about living your life. It's a reset so that you can live your life. So we want to share with you, meet us again on next week. We'll share more information, take us to the next level. Next week, we'll be talking about the worst foods to have and the best foods to have if you are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or insulin resistant. And then we're going to get us some chefs on here and show us some foods that we can be cooking that we can do ourselves. Because come on, we just got to go back to the old school way. We got to cook at home. All right. Be blessed, everybody. Have a great day.